Hello, welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Software Engineering. I'm here with Peter Kolb. Peter, can you briefly introduce yourself?
Hello, thanks all to giving the opportunity here to contribute to this small series of interviews and expert interviews to give you some advice on outsourcing and distributed software development. My name is Peter Kolb. I'm giving the lecture here in the DOSE course, and I'm running a small consulting firm, RedExpert, which deals with these kind of topics.
Okay, thanks.
So the first question is that we have the groups in different countries, in 10 countries exactly, for the DOS course. So what is your recommendation of how to do project planning during the course?
Actually, a group consists of 3 times 3 people. 3 people always build a team, and accordingly to this structure, the requirements have been created. That means we have, as I understood, we will have 3 different parts of the requirements. Each team has its own part. Already on the requirements level, there will be defined how these parts will interact together in the end, to a certain extent. From this point of view, we can take the requirements also to split up the work among the members in the teams and between the teams. So my proposal is to create out of the requirements tasks which can be assigned to single software engineers. And these tasks can then be, for each of the group, can be brought together in order to achieve a certain iteration goal. And the iteration goal would end up with a milestone, and beforehand it will go with a testing. Okay? And practical hints for it would be that everybody agrees what should be in the scope for the next iteration. The iteration should be not to be overloaded, so everybody should agree that he or she can manage the workload until the next iteration. And there should be room foreseen for unforeseeable. So if people don't have time to work on the topic, or if technical problems come up, that they can be solved.
Could you give some technical advice on, in terms of tools, what the students can use? For example, we have the issue tracker in GitHub, but that's not the only thing that would be possible.
Issue tracker is a suitable tool for this purpose. I mean, we only need a short description, we need a person behind it, and maybe we need a rough estimation how much effort it is. And we need a status that we say we assign it to a certain iteration, that we work on it, that we have it completely resolved. Okay, so a few states are necessary. From this point of view, you also see we have to think about how many of these issues should be used to control the project or to plan and control the project. If it is too many of these issues, it's a lot of work for the planners in order to create the issues, but also for the developers to change the state of the issues from assigned to an iteration to in work to being completed. And as I understand, it's mostly students who are working here, people who are creative, who would like to concentrate on the work and not on the meta level on the tasks. So we should limit the amount of issues or change requests or work breakdown structure items which we manage here. Rule of thumb, I would say 1 task or 1 issue should be per person 1 to 3 days.
Okay.
Or
finding the right level of granularity.
That means if we have a weekly planning update, then we could say every person has contributed maybe 1 to tasks and resolved them.
I see. Okay, thanks.
So the next question is that suppose that one of these days you go out to pick up your Ducati bike, and then you meet in a very Vespa bike Blatter and Beckenbauer, and they tell you, we know how to make Germany win the next World Cup, but you have to outsource all your projects out of Switzerland. So how do you start to analyze what you outsource and what kind of projects you outsource, and then what part of these projects you outsource? Because I guess you have to take a decision what you keep in Switzerland and what you outsource to other countries. And the main goal is to save costs mainly.
Okay. So, in this point, it's clearly outspoken what is the goal of the whole exercise. It seems not that we would like to get new expertise into the company, or that we miss some expertise in the company and therefore go outside. You claimed it's purely the motivation is cost saving, which is often a matter of fact. And then, first of all, I would be alerted and I would ask in more depth to the management of the company, how do they believe that outsourcing will, per definition, fulfill their goal of cost saving? And how they have thought about it, how they would like to save the cost by outsourcing. And it would lead to the next question, that you would need to analyze the situation in more detail. So what is the current software team capable to do? Why are they so expensive? And what are the motivations for outsourcing, or what would be better through outsourcing? Where can you save cost through outsourcing? And based on this analysis, we might come up with different scenarios on how to do cost saving, and these scenarios need to be discussed again with the management in order to select one of them and go further.
Well, based on your experience, would you say that the challenges of outsourcing, which come with distributed teams and communication over it, is this often underestimated if the company doesn't have experience?
Certainly. I mean, if you consider a standard company where software development is only one discipline within many other disciplines of the company, then you often have a development team which has been maintained, or which has been working for many years in the area of software development, often not always improved in the latest technologies, not built up the latest knowledge, and therefore, yeah, you have not always the best competence in software development. That might be one of the points. Let me come back to the question. I lost the point. Yes, and now I come back. So if you then, with the team which is used to work locally in one room or in one building even, with short communication passes, would like to replace by a distributed team, you have an overhead in the beginning, and you have a learning curve in the beginning. The overhead is in terms of communication. The overhead is in terms of written specifications, so that everybody understands what needs to be done. The overhead is in collecting the results precisely, and the overhead is on solving issues on the fly when they occur in the distributed environment.
So those course is really a good exercise.
It's a good exercise to understand what works and what doesn't work. Yes, and how efficient development in one concentrated place could be. Yes.
So continue with the topic of outsourcing. Do you think that requirements is doing requirements analysis is a requirement to start to do an outsourced project, or do you think you can succeed of doing an outsourced project without doing any requirement first?
In general, I would say it's more crucial to have agreed requirements among the two parties, the home organization and the outsourcing party, because based on the requirements you can make the contract and say what is the size of the project, what is the cost of the project, and what really needs to be done in order to accept the final results, of course, the content of the project. If you don't have these requirements, all three parameters of the project are shaky. That means the final point in time, when you deliver, is shaky, the content what you deliver is shaky, and what it costs is also shaky. If you can live with these facts, that you don't have clear project parameters in place and only a limited budget, and you would like to go until the budget is consumed, then it might be fine also to start without requirements in outsourcing project. This typically happens if you have first prototypes where you yourself do not understand what the requirements are and need to have more an iterative prototype characteristic approach in order to come to the solution.
So the last question of the interview is that in software engineering we have agile methods, and in the latest year there are a lot of people promoting agile methods, and there are also heavyweight methods like structural project methods like RUF or waterfall. My question is, according to the history, what do you think is the best player of the world, Maradona or Pelé?
Yeah, as I see many companies at the moment, they of course like to jump on the train of the very agile methods which help them to get rid of all the overhead which is in the project, the so-called overhead. But on the other hand, if you really look what they really practice, it's only a certain part of these agile methods. So there is still a lot of documentation which takes place. Nevertheless, the teams call themselves agile. And that is also important to know when you do distributed development. Without a clear control of the project, without knowing who does what in terms of requirements, you will not succeed.
Right.
Peter, thank you very much, and see you next time.
Thank you too for giving me the opportunity here. Okay.